Have you ever looked around and felt that something about the world didn't make sense anymore? That the things people chase, the noise, the validation, the endless routines, suddenly felt unreal? That's the first crack in the illusion. The moment your eyes begin to open, you stop belonging to the world you once called home. Carl Jung warned that awakening is not light, it's fire. When you start seeing beyond the collective dream, you lose the comfort of belonging. You begin to notice the invisible patterns holding society together, the way people talk without thinking, obey without questioning, consume without feeling, and suddenly everything you once admired looks hollow. You're not angry, you're awake. But awakening has a cost. The truth doesn't hand you peace, it takes your illusions first. You lose friends who still believe in the game. You feel detached from conversations that used to excite you. You start to sense the quiet sadness of being surrounded by sleepers who call their cages freedom. And though you love them, you can no longer pretend. The deeper you see, the less you fit. That's the paradox of consciousness. Expansion creates distance. You move between two worlds, one still hypnotized, the other unbearably clear. Sometimes you wish you could close your eyes again, just to rest inside the warmth of ignorance. But once you've seen through the illusion, you can't go back. The truth stains you permanently. So, you walk silently among those who still believe. You smile when they mock your seriousness, your silence, your search. They call you lost, when in truth, you're only beginning to find yourself. And in that quiet exile, a strange strength begins to grow. Not the strength to convince them, but the strength to remain awake among the sleeping. If this feels familiar, you're not alone. Tell me in the comments if you felt this quiet separation. That moment when you realized you could never unsee what you've seen. And if you're walking this path, leave a like, subscribe, and stay close, because this journey only deepens from here. The illusion didn't begin with you. It was already here, woven into the air, the language, the stories you were born into. From your first breath, the collective began to shape you. It told you what to value, what to fear, what success should look like, what emotions were acceptable to feel. It whispered that happiness comes from belonging, and belonging comes from obedience. And so, slowly, you learned to trade your authenticity for acceptance. Jung called this force the collective unconscious, a vast field of shared archetypes and beliefs that live through us more than we live through them. It's the invisible architecture of the human world. Nations, religions, cultures, and social systems all feed on this shared dream. It gives meaning, yes, but also blindness. Because when everyone agrees on the same illusion, it starts to look like truth. As children, we absorbed this dream without resistance. We watched adults perform their roles, their smiles rehearsed, their pain hidden behind polite laughter. We learned that silence is safer than sincerity, that success is measured by imitation. The collective trains us not to see, to repeat, to consume, to maintain the pattern. But something within you resisted, didn't it? A small, wordless part of you that never fully believed. That part is your soul. The one piece of you the collective cannot own. And yet, to listen to it is dangerous. It means risking exile from the comfort of the herd. The illusion is clever. It rewards conformity with belonging and punishes authenticity with isolation. Most people choose belonging. They would rather be accepted in the dream than alone in the truth. But those who begin to wake up can feel the weight of this unseen web. Every expectation, every social rule, every unspoken demand pressing against the boundaries of their mind. And that's where the fracture begins. When your inner voice no longer matches the collective voice. When you start to question why everyone moves in circles while calling it progress. That question is the beginning of your freedom. and the beginning of your loneliness. The herd is comforting. It moves as one, breathes as one, believes as one. When you walk among it, you feel invisible and safe. Your thoughts already decided, your values pre-approved. There is no need to question, no risk of rejection, no silence heavy enough to confront your own. Mind, you belong, and belonging in the collective illusion is the closest thing to salvation. But that safety is not peace, it is sedation. The herd doesn't move toward truth, it moves toward agreement. Its rhythm is hypnotic, its language circular. It teaches you to fear solitude more than falseness, and so you remain, repeating the same opinions, the same rituals, the same distractions. The herd's harmony depends on one sacred rule: never wake up too much. Carl Jung saw this clearly. He wrote that when individuals lose their inner connection, they fall prey to the group psyche, a primitive force that thinks and feels through them. It's why crowds can cheer cruelty, why entire societies can follow lies with conviction. The collective mind is powerful, but it is blind. It cannot reflect, it can only react. Inside this illusion, comfort becomes the highest virtue. To fit in, you soften your voice, dilute your truth, and wear the mask that others understand. You call it compromise, maturity, balance. But beneath it all, something in you begins to ache, a quiet grief for the self you've silenced in exchange for acceptance. The herd gives warmth, but steals clarity. It replaces authenticity with approval, individuality with identity, and yet leaving it feels like dying because the herd promises safety, and outside it lies the vast, terrifying field of freedom. Still, somewhere deep within you, a question keeps echoing. What if I was never meant to be safe? What if I was meant to be awake? And when that question grows louder than your fear of standing alone, the illusion begins to tremble. That's how awakening starts, not in defiance, but in the quiet courage to take a single step away from the noise. Awakening is not enlightenment, it's exile. The moment you begin to see through the illusion, the world starts to feel both too familiar and unbearably foreign. You still walk among people, but something has shifted. You can no longer join their laughter without feeling the echo of emptiness beneath it. The conversations that once entertained you now sound like background noise in a dream you've outgrown. You watch faces glowing in the light of screens, each person convinced that their curated life is real. And you wonder, when did pretending become survival? Carl Jung understood this loneliness. He wrote that one does not become conscious without pain. To awaken is to stand between two worlds, one that sleeps in comfort and one that watches in silence. You see patterns others ignore, manipulation disguised as morality, distraction mistaken for joy. You begin to sense the invisible machinery that keeps people busy enough to avoid themselves. It's not arrogance, it's grief. You grieve for the world's blindness, for the innocence of those who still believe. But the real agony doesn't come from others. It comes from the distance growing inside you. You are no longer who you were, yet not fully who you're becoming. You hover in a liminal space where everything once certain turns fluid. You lose belonging, identity, even language. The comfort of certainty dissolves, and you are left naked before the truth. Still, there is beauty hidden in the ache. The silence that once felt unbearable slowly becomes sacred. You start to hear your own thoughts clearly for the first time, raw, unfiltered, terrifyingly real. You learn to sit in solitude, not as punishment but as initiation. So tell me, have you ever felt that quiet despair, the pain of seeing what others refuse to see? Have you ever tried to explain it, only to be met with blank eyes and nervous smiles? Leave a comment below, because that ache you feel is not madness. It's the birth of your consciousness. Be normal. That's the unspoken command shaping every human life. It doesn't come from one voice, but from all. Parents, teachers, lovers, strangers, the entire web of culture whispering the same quiet threat: fit in or vanish. So we learn early how to play our parts. We polish our smiles, hide our doubts, dress our fears in polite language. The performance becomes second nature, and one day we mistake the mask for the face. Normality is not truth. It's agreement. It's the illusion that if we all act the same, we'll feel the same, and therefore be safe. But behind that uniformity lies repression. Emotions swallowed, instincts denied, individuality sacrificed. Jung called this the persona, the mask we wear to adapt to society. Necessary, yes, but dangerous when mistaken for identity. Because once you believe your own act, the soul begins to die in silence. The collective rewards the mask. It praises those who appear balanced, productive, positive. The more you conform, the more invisible your suffering becomes. And so entire cities move like theaters, millions of actors pretending not to notice that they are all pretending. The illusion sustains itself through mutual deception. I'll believe your mask if you believe. Mine. But beneath the performance, something restless stirs. Late at night, when the roles fall away, you can feel it, that pulse of something raw and unmasked, asking, who would I be if I stopped performing? The thought terrifies you, because it threatens to dissolve the life you've built around appearances. Yet that terror is the doorway to authenticity. The tragedy of modern life is not that people are asleep. It's that they dream of being awake while wearing the mask. True awakening begins when you dare to take it off, even if only in the privacy of your own awareness. To remove it is to risk being seen, to risk being misunderstood. But it is also the only way to feel alive again. Normality is the prison we decorate to avoid the truth of our freedom. And freedom, as Jung knew, is never comfortable, but it is the only thing that's real. There comes a point in the awakening when you realize that your path will not be crowded. You look around and find that the conversations that once filled your days no longer touch you. The noise of the world feels distant, even when you're standing in the middle of it. People laugh, the news hums, the cycle of distraction spins, and yet you are elsewhere. The more awake you become, the lonelier the landscape grows. This is the exile of consciousness, not forced, but chosen by the soul that refuses to return to sleep. It's not that you despise others, it's that you no longer share the same dream. Their gods, their goals, their fears, all shaped by the same collective hypnosis, begin to look like shadows on a wall you've already walked through. You try to reach back, to speak their language again, but the words taste hollow. What you once called connection now feels like pretending. Jung called this stage the desert, where the individual must walk alone to discover the source of their own meaning. It's a sacred disconnection. Painful, yes, but necessary. Without it, you would never hear your own voice over the collective's constant whisper. Solitude becomes your teacher. Silence becomes your companion. In this exile, you start to notice how much of your identity was borrowed. The opinions, the ambitions, even your sense of self. Fragments inherited from a world that never really saw you. And as those layers fall away, what remains is terrifyingly simple. Just you, raw and unmasked, standing in the open field of your own awareness. Some nights, the emptiness feels unbearable. You question everything, your purpose, your sanity, even the value of seeing at all. But slowly, beneath the ache, a new strength takes root. You realize that this isolation is not punishment, it's purification. The absence of belonging reveals the presence of truth. You are not disconnected. You are reconnecting to something deeper than the crowd could ever offer. You have not lost your place in the world. You have found your place in yourself. To awaken is one thing. To remain awake is another. The first moment of clarity feels electric, a flash of truth cutting through illusion. But soon after comes the real test. Can you sustain your difference in a world that demands sameness? Because the collective does not easily forgive those who stop playing by its rules. Once you begin to live from awareness, you start to threaten the unconscious. Your mere presence disrupts the script. People sense something in you, a quiet defiance, a refusal to lie the way they do. Some will admire it, but many will resist it. They'll call you distant, arrogant, broken, or strange. Their discomfort is not about you, it's about the reflection you create. You've become a mirror, and they don't like what they see. Carl Jung said that the individual must sometimes stand against the collective, not out of rebellion, but out of necessity. To remain true to your soul means accepting exile as part of your path. It means speaking truth even when your voice trembles. It means holding your vision steady while others mock or misunderstand it. That is courage, not the loud heroism of battle, but the silent endurance of authenticity. You will lose people. You will outgrow places. The familiar warmth of belonging will fade, and yet something greater will replace it. Integrity. The peace of knowing you are no longer divided between what you believe and what you show. You start to live without performance. You begin to act from center, not from expectation. The awakened life is not glamorous. It's not about superiority or escape. It's about walking through a world asleep and refusing to forget who you are. It's choosing truth over comfort, clarity over approval. Every day you remain authentic. You affirm something sacred, that one soul standing awake is more powerful than 1,000 minds repeating lies. So tell me, have you ever felt the weight of being different? Have you paid a price for refusing to pretend? Leave your thoughts in the comments, because your courage, quietly sustained, is what keeps the truth alive in a world that fears it. After the noise fades, after the anger, the grief, the disillusionment, what remains is silence. Not the shallow kind that fills empty rooms, but the deep, resonant quiet that feels almost alive. It doesn't comfort you at first. It unnerves you, because in this silence there's nothing left to distract you from yourself. No applause, no echo, no reflection in another's eyes. Only you, and the truth you've uncovered. This is the crossing every awakened soul must face. The crossing of silence is not escape, it's confrontation. Here, all the false identities you once wore come to the surface one last time, asking to be released. The achiever, the pleaser, the hero, the victim, each dissolves in the stillness, and beneath them you begin to sense the one who has been watching all along, the observer, the timeless awareness behind your story. Jung described this as the process of individuation, where consciousness separates from the collective mind and returns to its center. It is not isolation, it is integration. You are not leaving the world, you are returning to it as something whole. But to cross this threshold, you must let silence do its work. It will strip you of your noise, your certainty, your need to be understood. It will teach you to exist without reference. At first, the silence feels like death. Then, slowly, it starts to feel like truth. You begin to notice subtler things, the pulse of your breath, the rhythm of your thoughts, the quiet intelligence moving beneath everything. The same silence that once frightened you becomes your sanctuary. And in that space, compassion awakens. You stop resenting the sleepers because you remember you were one of them. You no longer need to preach or prove. You simply see. You carry the light without announcing it. You speak only when words rise naturally from truth, not from fear. This is the quiet liberation, to stand in the middle of the world's madness and remain still. Inside, to move through the noise without becoming it. That is the mark of the one who has crossed the silence and returned whole. Once you've crossed the silence, there's no going back. The world still looks the same, but something irreversible has changed within you. You can no longer tolerate what is false, not in others, and especially not in yourself. Words that once came easily now feel heavy if they're not true. Smiles that once hid discomfort now tremble with honesty. This is the call to authenticity, the invitation to live without masks, without compromise, without fear. Authenticity is not rebellion. It's alignment. It's the moment when your inner truth and your outer expression finally match. Jung believed that the soul's deepest need is wholeness, not perfection. To live authentically is to embody that wholeness, to act from the center instead of the surface. It means allowing your truth to guide your choices, even when it costs you comfort, approval, or certainty. The Gia collective illusion thrives on imitation, on people living borrowed lives. When you choose authenticity, you break that cycle. You stop performing and start existing. You stop chasing validation and begin creating meaning. It's not an easy path. Authenticity requires a kind of daily courage, to say no when silence would be safer, to speak truth even when your voice shakes. You'll lose some people along the way. You'll disappoint those who only loved your mask. But what you gain in return is sacred integrity, the quiet satisfaction of being real, even when no one understands you. You discover that honesty has its own energy. It attracts what's meant for you and dissolves what's not. And slowly, a new form of connection appears, not built on performance, but resonance. You start to find others who live from the same depth, not many, but enough. These are not relationships of convenience. They are recognitions of truth, souls that see each other without distortion. To live authentically is to risk everything unreal, and to finally rest in the one thing that can't be taken from you, yourself. To live awake is to live differently, not above the world, but deeply within it. You still walk the same streets, breathe the same air, meet the same people, but now you see the invisible threads, the fears driving their choices, the longing beneath their smiles, the pain disguised as confidence. Awareness changes how you move through life. You no longer chase meaning. You embody it. You no longer fight illusions. You see through them with compassion. Carl Jung believed that awakening is not escape from the collective, but transformation within it. The goal is not to abandon humanity, but to illuminate it from the inside. When you rise above the illusion, you stop trying to convince others and start living as a quiet reminder that freedom is possible. Your existence becomes your message. Your peace becomes rebellion. But awareness also carries weight. You'll feel the suffering of the world more acutely, the ignorance, the cruelty, the noise. You'll see how much of human life is built on fear. Yet instead of despair, you begin to feel something sacred, empathy. Because now you understand that every soul is dreaming its way toward truth, just as you once did. Living awake doesn't make you better. It makes you real. It makes you responsible. It asks you to hold your clarity gently, not as a weapon, but as a light. You become the bridge between the world as it is and the world as it could be. That's the true risk, not awakening, but staying awake in a place that still sleeps. And if you've walked with me through every shadow and silence of this journey, you already know the awakening isn't the end. It's the beginning of conscious living, the art of seeing clearly, loving deeply, and acting truthfully. If these words found you in the right moment, tell me, what truth do you now see that you can't unsee? Leave it in the comments, like this video, share it with someone who's beginning to stir, and subscribe if you're ready to keep walking beyond the illusion. Because awakening isn't about leaving the dream. It's about learning to dream with your eyes open.